Today's quote by Sadhguru really resonated and still resonates with me because it speaks to the core of why we humans often feel stuck in suffering. So let's dive into it. You cannot suffer the past or future because they do not exist. What you are suffering is your memory and your imagination. You cannot suffer the past or the future because they do not exist. What you are suffering is your memory and your imagination. Sadhguru is saying that the past and the future don't have any real power over us. They're just mental constructs. So what we call suffering usually comes from either replaying memories or imagining the future. So just imagining worst case scenarios. So think about it. When's the last time you felt anxious? You probably felt anxious because you were imagining something in the future that you're scared of. Some worst case scenario. Let's say you've maybe applied for a job and you're anxious because you're imagining that you don't get it and that you're gonna be without this job, that you're gonna have to apply for, I don't know, some government payment because you're jobless and you're gonna be homeless or whatever. In the present, your job application has not been denied. The reason you're suffering doesn't make any sense if you think about it. If you take this quote into reconsideration, you're suffering something, some reality that doesn't exist. And this goes the same way, not with the future, but also with the past. So when we're sad, it's often because we're dwelling on something from the past. Let's say you broke up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend, in case there's a female watching, which I'm not sure, but maybe there is, so I'm gonna include you as well. If your girlfriend or boyfriend broke up with you, then you're sad and you're dwelling on something that happened in the past. So you're suffering your memory. You're not suffering the present. So try to keep that in mind. And now let's get into the practical application of this. So the first step to breaking free from this kind of suffering is recognizing that the past and the future are just thoughts, not reality. So try to catch yourself when you start replaying old memories and you're feeling very sad because you miss someone or whatever, or when you worry about the future. And this could be approach anxiety as well. So try to catch yourself in these moments and ask yourself, is this really happening right now? And the answer is 99% of the time going to be no. Because right now you're in the present, and right now you're probably not suffering. You're probably doing just fine. What you're suffering are your thoughts and your imagination. So be mindful. Focus on what's happening now, right now. So engage with the present moment. What you can also do is journal. So you could just write down worries or past regrets. And then, that's really important, then remind yourself that these thoughts are just a construct in your mind and they are not reality. They are not what's currently happening. Try to just remind yourself of that constantly. I used to get anxious thinking about mistakes I made, replaying them over and over again. I really loved, and still to this day love, playing football. And I've made a lot of mistakes in my career, let's call it that. For example, I suffered a lot from the past. I suffered my memory a lot because I was mad that I didn't go to the new club sooner, because I would have improved so much more because it was a better club and a higher league, better coaches and whatever. So I was oftentimes just laying in bed and just being mad because of what could have happened, if this event in the past went differently. But when I reflected on this quote, I realized that these moments of suffering, they only live in my mind. so they were not part of my present reality. And I know example is quite a few years back, but still to this day I'm thinking about like I would be fucking good if I changed earlier, or if I didn't have um, this foot injury and all that sort of stuff. And the same goes with the imagination part as well. And that is something that I still to this day struggle with. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna use the example of approaching someone. You know, when I'm out on the street, I see a nice lady. I want to go and approach her because that's natural. That's what your mind tells you to do. If everything is right, that's at least what should be happening. But the moment this thought arises, this thought of go and approach her, do something, say something to her. The moment this happened, I got so anxious. But if we think back to this quote, if we go back to this and remember what it teaches us, what it taught us, we realize that the reason I'm anxious is because I'm afraid of what might happen when I do approach her. So let's say in my head I'm playing the scenario out. I go approach her and she says she has a boyfriend. That's an okay scenario. Let's say I approach her and she says, "Oh, you're ugly," or "weird," she just ignores me. That is why I'm anxious. But if we go back to the quote and think for a moment, we realize that what I'm suffering here is not reality. I'm suffering solely my imagination. And once you really understand this, you're gonna also suffer it less. Because when you remind yourself that you're only suffering your thoughts and not reality, it gives you more control of the moment, and it gives you more control of how you feel in the moment, because you know that you're right now in the present and that you can change the future. You can influence the scenario that you play out in your head. You can influence it, and it isn't guaranteed that it's gonna be this bad. Most of the times it's gonna be way better than you imagine. So I want to challenge you to observe when your mind slips into the past or the future, and remind yourself that those moments in the past and in the future, your memory and your imagination, they do not exist. They're not reality. Reality is you right now, watching this video, listening to me speak. And reality for me right now is talking to this camera, talking to you. That is reality for me right now. So for me right now, there's no reason to be anxious about whatever. For example, there's no reason for me to be mad about that I just shot the entire video but my microphone was muted. Usually that would drive me crazy. But this topic right here that we have now made me realize that there's no reason to suffer. It's the past, it's done. That I shot the entire video with my microphone muted is irrelevant. It changes nothing. It doesn't matter. What I need to do is just be in the present. What should I do? Just shoot it again. Make sure the microphone is muted, of course, but that's basically it. And that's why I would freak out. I would not freak out, but I would be mad, I would be pissed. But now I'm not, because of this topic right here, so I'm really grateful for that. So, you watching right here and me, let's bring ourselves back to the present and let's try to stop suffering things that don't exist. So before we stop, I want to ask you something. Have you noticed yourself suffering from memories or imagination? And I want you to tell me and the other people watching about it in the comments, and maybe let us know how this video changed your view on these things, or if you've come across this concept earlier and you've already, freed yourself from it in a way. I would also like to ask you to share your favorite quotes that you have in the comment section, so that I can be dedicating an entirely new video, an entirely new quote of the day video for your quote. If I like it, I'm probably gonna like it, but just shoot them into the comments and I will read all of them, guaranteed. There aren't gonna be many, so it's not hard. And lastly, I'm gonna recommend you to do something that I'm gonna do right now as well, and that is to write these quotes, or just quotes in general that you like. Write them down on a piece of paper, not into some phone or whatever. Write them down onto a piece of paper, and just like I'm gonna do right now, hang them onto the wall, because you're gonna see them every day, and they're gonna remind you of how you should live life, and it's gonna help you. Trust me. So I'm gonna do this right now. See you in the next one. Have a good time.